Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Louis Shine. We're going to talk defense today. I'm going to give you some keys and tips on how to win basketball games using your defense. So the first thing I like to talk about is the ball pressure of your point guard. The first thing that is always something that I used to do on my scouting reports is I would find out some of the specs on the point guard. So the point guard on the opposing team, they handle the ball the most. I mean, occasionally you'll have, or sometimes you'll have teams that a lot of different people bring the ball up and they have different ball handlers. So in that case, you may have to check on a few different people. But let's just say you have a point guard that's heavy on the ball handle. They bring the ball up the court. They enter the ball into their offense. Well, naturally, that point guard is going to be the one that when you look on the stats, you're going to see that they may turn the ball over a lot. You know, a lot may be 3, or more than that might be 7. But I always see that 3 to 7 range in terms of where you see point guards turn the ball over. So one of the first things that I like to target with my defense is how many turnovers does their point guard average? If the point guard doesn't average a lot, then who on their team averages the most turnovers? So one of the first things that you like to do on defense when you're looking at a team is who averages the most turnovers. All right. So that's a question that you have to know, because here's the thing. If you have a player that averages 4 turnovers a game and you're playing against them, then your goal should be to make sure that that player gets those turnovers and more. Because if you look at it, if they average 4 turnovers, that means that there's been games where they've gotten less than that. And then that means that there's games where they have more than that. What you should do is when you're playing that team, before you play that team, go back and look at how many the top games where that player had the most turnovers. So if they average 4 turnovers, go find some games where they average 6 and 7 turnovers, where they actually had 6 or 7 turnovers. And then from there, watch and see how the other team exploited that player to make them average that many turnovers. That should give you a key as to how many turnovers you can make that player get and how you can do it. So if I'm playing against a player that I saw a game where they averaged 7, and the way that they made that player average 7 turnovers or get 7 turnovers was by the full court press or by trapping. Well, if that worked there, it might work for you. So you may want to try some of that. So, you know, you find out who averages the most turnovers on the team that you're playing, and then you want to latch yourself to making that player average that many turnovers again or more. So that's a defensive key. I have seen it work over and over and over again. It's not hard to make this happen, but you have to focus yourself on the defensive end so that you can make that happen. All right. So another key is who averages the most points. All right. So once you find out who averages the most points on the team, now your job is to take away those points, even cut them in half. So we had a game in our conference when I was a Division II coach, and this player, the last 5 games, this player was averaging 20 plus points a game. Well, for me, I said, that's not going to happen against us. So that whole weekend scout, I played that player, and we made sure that we did things in scout and game planning for that player, even individual breakdown meetings with the players that were going to guard that player. And we made sure that we were going to take that player out of the game. So that entire game, we pretty much played a box and one, because whatever we did on the other defensive scheme, that player that averaged 20, I had 2 players, you know, they subbed for each other, but I had two players locked on that player at all times, and that's all they did. Whenever that player was in the game, we went away from everything else we was doing, and we went over there and played that player. And I told my defense, I said, I don't want to hear my bad. I don't want you helping off of your player down in the post. I don't want you doing any of that. Your main focus is to keep the ball and make it hard, keep the ball away from that player and make it hard for that player. So this player went from averaging 20 points for the last 5 games, and when they played us, that player had 2 points. So now, if the coach is dependent on that 18 points, that 20 points, and the player only had 2, there's 18 points that was not in that coach's game plan, or rather that was in that coach's game plan that's not anymore. And so now you make that coach by default have to figure out how they're going to get that other 18 points somewhere else. And so now that's how you put pressure on another coach, because if that coach game plan for that, great. If that coach knows how to audible and say, okay, this player is not getting what they should get, let's try to get something else. We'll see. But that's what you do as a coach. As an opposing coach, you do things like these 2 things, and I'm going to explain one more, that puts the pressure on that other coach. Now, let's see what the other coach is going to do. If that coach is not used to not having that 20 points a game and they don't know what to do if that gets cut off, then you just beat them pretty much. So at least it's a way to beat them. So first one is who averages the most turnovers, and I want to make this person reach their average or even more turnovers than they average. All right, who averages the most points, and we would like to take away some of that average, if not much of it as we can. This is really key because it's defense, because this is where you can see that your defense is as valuable as scoring points. If you beat a team by 10, and let's say this person right here scored 20 points and they might have beat you by 10, but you took most of their points away and now you've won by 10 or so points, that defensive effort was as valuable as a 20-point per game score. So this is very important. So you turnovers, you want to exploit those turnovers, all right? You want to take points away from the other team. And then here's another one. Your 3-point defense. 3-point field goal defense, okay? So during my year as an acting head coach, we were 27th in the nation in 3-point field goal defense. What this means is this is a percentage that your opponent shoots from the 3-point line against you. So this particular year when I was the acting head coach, our opponents shot 27% from the 3-point line, which is pretty good because it's below 30. We were 27th in the nation, and the top team was the top team was first, of course, but their teams averaged 24% from the 3-point line against them, which is really good. And so this is another area where it's very important, because I don't like to get beat from the 3-point line. So we had to fight like crazy in practice to make sure that we were moving on the flight of the ball, closing out, being in a player's face. When they catch the ball, we should be right there and pushing them off the 3-point line. My defenders were on the 3-point line. So our defensive stance against 3-point shooters and against anybody on the perimeter was on the 3-point line. That automatically pushes a shooter back 2 to 3 feet, so that now if they think about shooting a 3, they're shooting a longer 3 than just the normal 3 that you're shooting from the 3-point line comfortably right in front of the line at practice. And so this is important because, when you see teams that other teams hit 7 or more 3-pointers against them, like there's teams that'll go 7 for 21 from the 3-point line. Well, that's too many 3-pointers. I'm trying to get it to where a team only hits maybe 3, maybe 4, not 7 plus going towards 10. So you have to work at your 3-point field goal defense. There's 2 ways that teams beat people. Actually, it's a third one, but commonly you'll see teams beat people from the 3-point line, in the points in the paint, and fast breaking teams. Teams are always running. They're fast breaking teams. And so if you can cut, down your three-point percentage that teams hit three-pointers against you, their percentage, working on moving on the flight of the ball. And I'll put that video, I have a video called 3-point field goal defense that I'll put right down below. So check that out. But also points in the paint. I have another video for that. I'll put right down here below. And then there's another concept, not only your 3-point field goal defense, your points in the paint, but your fast break defense. How you picking up as the other team is coming down. If you can get those three in control, you've pretty much worked that full triangle scope of your defense. Your 3-point, in the paint, fast break defense, transition defense, as they call it. If you can work those three and really get those solid, you've just put together a nice package with your defense to defend any team. And you work those and you coach those areas in practice. You start practice with them, you end practice with them, and you drill those areas. We drilled this, lots of times. And when you see the video is actually of a school that I went to do some consulting work with and work with them on their defense. You'll see that we really drill it, and we're really on those players to move on the flight of the ball and not spectate or watch the ball as it's in flight and then move. No, you have to move when the ball is moving. So we drill those things. So there's just a few things here that can really help you in terms of just things that'll help you win games with defense. Finding out who has the most turnovers, averages the most turnovers, and exploiting that, like locking in on that. Make them get more than their average against you. Study how other teams made them get more than their average and use the same tactics. Who averages the most points, and now you're locking in to making that player get half of their points. Make it hard for them to get that average. All right? 3-point field goal defense. Don't let teams beat you from the 3-point line. Make it impossible. But you got to work these three areas. You have to work them. You have to work them. You have to work them. You have to drill them. You have to drill them. You have to drill them. And you're going to see results in them if you work at them in that way. So we'll love to work with you. We'll love to work with your team. I do virtuals. I also appear in person. I've had teams bring me in to work with them on their defense, which is my specialty, and I would love to work with you in your program. So please reach out, leave me a comment below, or visit my website, lewisshine.com, and go to contact me, and you can leave a message there, and I will definitely get back in contact with you. But if you like this video, please subscribe. Please click the like button. Please leave a comment about any of these things that you had experience with, or any of these things that you're putting into play. Let me know how you liked it, and let me know how it helped your team. So until next time, thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next one.